Brody, are you afraid of bumblebees? Oh, really? Because you're shrieking like a little girl over there. Bumblebees are good. They're not around you. Okay, Brody, what's going on today? Whoa, cool trick, man. Oh my god. So we're just on Mount Baldy here. Well, we just came down from the highest point. And we're thinking about doing the whole loop. These guys are making, yeah, we'll edit this part out exactly if we don't. They're making their way across the ridge and it goes all the way over there where that little snow saddle is, up to the south peak, and then down the other side. We'll see, but either way, wow. No wind, hot day.
Hot mama.
Hot Kate.
Hot Brody.
Hot Brody. Taking the sleeves off, Brody.
Yeah.
Little arm sleeves. Little hat. That's where we came from, way up there. Brody. Get that snow. It is such a hot day. And Brody and I, we hiked up Baldy Mountain. We traversed across the ridge and now we're currently going up a boulder scree field up Midnight Peak. Doing a little snow post holing. Although I'm staying on top. I'm on top. This is, I can see snow for, legging. Oh, Brody's still on top. I can see snow for as far as the eye can see. We're just walking down from Midnight Peak now. We thought we might go up it, but we decided we didn't feel like post-holing in the snow for 2 hours to get a kilometer, and you know, since we already made our peak Baldy anyways, then we're just gonna go back and loop around, go down Baldy Pass trail instead of going back across the ridge and back up Baldy and then down where we came. Might have to run on the highway back to get to our car, but that's cool. Then we get a little bit of a run in too.
What is it, like a Labradoodle?
Yep.
Brody likes dogs more than people. Nailed it for the win.
Yeah.
This is Roots in the Wilderness, and today we're talking about hiking from Mount Baldy to Baldy Pass. Welcome back to Roots in the Wilderness, everyone. My name is Kate Hamilton, and today I'm talking about hiking up to Mount Baldy, traversing over, and then coming down the Baldy Pass Trail. This hike is about 9.3 kilometers and has about 900 meters of elevation gain. The hike up to Mount Baldy and over to Baldy South is an easy scramble. And the hike down Baldy Pass Trail is a fairly easy hike. Now, in order to do this hike, you have to either have a car at either end, or you have to be willing to walk along the highway or in the ditch of the highway from the end of the trail back to the beginning of a trail, which would make the whole hike 9 or 11 kilometers instead of 9. Since it is a Saturday on a hot day after the world has slightly opened up from COVID, I picked up my friend Brody at 6:30 in the morning so we could get an early start before Kananaskis became a gong show. And to get to the trailhead for Baldy, you drive west on Highway 1, exit onto Highway 40 into Kananaskis, and you'll eventually go past Barrier Lake Dam on your right-hand side, and not much further past that, the trailhead is on your left. It is not an official trailhead. It's actually just the side of the highway, but it's obvious that lots of people have been parking there. And unless you go super early, you probably won't be the first person to get there. I do suggest downloading one of the GPS apps like Gaia to figure out exactly where the start of the trailhead is if you're not sure, if it's not obvious. Once you park there, the trail leading away from that little parking spot is really obvious. And basically, you just start going straight up. It's a pretty steep climb all the way up to Mount Baldy. It starts out, I would say, as a difficult hike through the forest. Eventually, it starts coming out into the rock and it turns into a scramble. There are a number of places where you have to climb, use your hands, and there is there's two little exposed areas where it can be quite dangerous to get across. I mean, technically it is wide enough that you could walk, but I like to go down and use my hands because they are at spots where if you fall, it could be fatal. So that's important for you to know. The trail the whole way up is fairly obvious. Of course, as always in a scramble or if there's some kind of scree, there's usually a number of different ways you can get to the same point, and Mount Baldy is no different. There is one section where you hit kind of a cliff band. It's not super straight down, but there are kind of two options. One is you can just go straight up and over, which requires a little bit more climbing or scrambling. And then the other way is you can go to the right and around the side, and they both work. It's just up to you what you're more comfortable with, more on the side of a ledge or climbing straight up and over. Eventually you get to Mount Baldy summit, and it is beautiful up there. We were so glad that we went early because even at that time in the morning, there was a number of people there already. And past the summit of Mount Baldy, making your way over to Baldy South, there is quite a steep down climb area. And it's still, it's still an easy scramble on the way down there. But if you're not comfortable climbing, it's something that could take you a long time. And Brody and I got caught behind a big group that was a little bit nervous and hadn't done as much. So they were going slow and being careful, which is really great. But it really slowed down the hike for us. It bottlenecked a little bit. One thing I want to really stress here is if you're in that situation where it is a scrambly climbing section and people are taking their time, don't climb over top of them or above them. It is so dangerous if you kick down a rock on them. It also really scares them when they're trying to make their way across a tedious spot. If it's really important to you that you move faster and don't have to stop, then get up earlier because it's really not fair to the other people. And that is something that happened to us while we were there. We were waiting for the bigger group in front of us to go so that they didn't feel pressured. And then a few people behind us decided that they were going to just climb above everybody. And it's really dangerous. So good practice for your scrambling and climbing world. Not long after that down climb, you'll make your way to Mount Baldy South with another beautiful view there. It's really nice to turn around there to see where you came from because Mount Baldy looks pretty high and pretty cool from Baldy South. And at that point, you can decide if you're going to traverse over to Mount Baldy West or continue along the ridge line until you meet up with the Baldy Pass Trail. We decided not to go to Mount Baldy West yesterday because honestly, there just looked like there was a bit too much snow, and I know that section is more technical and tedious than what we had already done, and we thought it'd be better if we just went in the easier direction. So we continued along the ridge line, which was really beautiful. Ridge lines are amazing because they have such a nice view the whole time. and it was really easy going. We actually jogged a lot of that ridge line until we got to the intersection where Baldy Pass Trail comes up from the highway, and actually where you can take another trail to climb up Midnight Peak. Right when we were at that intersection, we ran into a guy that I used to work with. Him and his partner had done the same thing we had done, so gone up Mount Baldy, traversed across the top of the ridge line, and then they continued on to climb or attempt to climb up Midnight Peak. And they told us that they got halfway up and the snow just got so deep that they were post-holing in the snow and decided that they didn't want to do that, so they turned around and came back down. And of course, Brody and I thought, well, if they can't do it, we probably can't, but let's do the same thing anyway. We weren't quite done. It was such a nice day, so we thought we'd just keep going. And we hiked up, same thing as the couple, hiked up halfway, found the really deep snow, started to post hole, and eventually got really tired of trying to crawl out of the snow and decided that, yeah, we are just going to turn around here, go back to that intersection, and then go back down Baldy Pass Trail. Coming down the Baldy Pass Trail was really nice, really easy going. At first it was, there was quite a bit of roots and rocks on the way down, a little bit muddy right now. And then that slowly disappeared and it became a really nice dirt trail through the forest. So Brody and I were able to jog down that whole thing until we got back to the highway. And we had parked our car 2 kilometers down the road. So we just jogged in the ditch until we went back to our car. If I could go back in time, especially because it was hot out and it was a really busy day, what I would have done is parked our car at the end of the Baldy Pass Trail, jogged in the morning over to where we had started to go up Mount Baldy so that our car was at the bottom of the pass instead of having to make that the highway or the ditch run in the heat of the day when it was extra busy. So little piece of advice if you do that. All in all, I really enjoyed this hike. I really love doing some scrambling, so it was fun to have a little bit of climbing, a little bit of running. The snow was actually, even though I was upset we didn't get up to Midnight Peak, stepping through the snow was really nice because for one of the first times ever in history, it was super hot at the top of the mountain, and I eventually did run out of water before we got back, but the snow was very welcoming. I have to say a highlight of my day, though, was when I got home and Brody sent me a message to let me know that he had his shorts on backwards the entire day. So that was fun. But yeah, I do recommend doing this hike. Again, keeping in mind it is an easy scramble. So if you're not comfortable scrambling, the way to do it is coming up from the opposite way that Brody and I did, coming up Baldy Pass Trail. And then you can basically continue on as far as you want or as comfortable as you are. But you get a nice hike in. If you go up the way Brody and I did, up Mount Baldy, and you're not comfortable with that, you're not going to get up very far before you have to turn around. The last thing to mention about this hike that is really nice is that because it's not too far down Highway 40, it isn't as long of a drive as it would be to get to some of the other mountains. It just makes it a little bit more accessible. Probably why it was also really busy earlier in the morning. So a couple things to consider. I do recommend you check it out if you can. And that's it for Mount Baldy to Baldy Pass Traverse. My name is Kate, and this is Roots in the Wilderness. Thanks for joining me.